Welcome to the Kingdom Culture Podcast that was created on purpose with a purpose to empower, uplift, and guide others to the center of God's perfect will. Culture family, thank you so much for being here. This is still part of our season of stories, and today I'm so happy to announce that my friend Luz from high school is with me. So we'll be interviewing her today, and I'm just so excited that you took the time to do this. I feel like it's always so good to hear people's stories and everything else. And I know a little bit about your background and how you were raised up and stuff. Obviously, she is Clarita's sister. She's also on my podcast on a different episode. So, it's just kind of cool to hear both their perspectives and just hear from themselves, right?
Yeah.
They grew up together, but it's different, right?
I'm not getting you off in the intro. But yeah, I was thinking about that. I think it's going to be exciting to see the difference between me and Clarita and if there is a difference.
Right, because you were younger, she was a little bit older, so there's going to be a difference there, just like perspectives and mindsets wise, right? Yeah. So the first question I ever ask is, where exactly were you actually born?
In Guanajuato.
Guanajuato, okay, Mexico, okay. So how old are you?
26.
26 years old, awesome. So were you there for a long time in Mexico? Do you remember, like childhood, or how long?
I think I have glimpses of when I lived there before I moved here. I was there until I was 5 or 6. Okay. I started kindergarten over there, and then I finished kindergarten here. But I don't remember actually moving. I remember a little bit of kindergarten over there, and I remember kindergarten here, but I don't remember
the transition.
Yeah, or how I felt or anything.
Or when your parents said, "Hey, we're gonna go to."
No, I don't remember the bus ride. I don't remember anything. I don't remember
So do your parents talk about that, your transition over here? You guys took a bus?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, because I think my mom mentioned the bus one time. That's why I said bus.
Cool. Well, just gave me another idea. I'm gonna go into your mom. Okay. So 6, 7, and you said you kind of remember kindergarten here in the U.S. So do you remember any differences? Did you feel off sorts when you came to the U.S.? How did you feel when you were in school?
I don't remember feeling anything, but what I think about is, and I'm sure Clarita talked about this, I remember now, because everybody talks about it, my parents, how Clarita had a really bad transition, and she kind of closed herself off to even speaking or learning English. I don't remember even thinking that there was a different language. Okay. My mom says that I just learned it really fast. So in my brain, maybe it's because I was younger, and maybe because in kindergarten we were barely starting at the beginning of English and all of that. I didn't notice
a difference.
Learning something different.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, she did talk about that. She did say that she kind of had troubles making friends and having to communicate. But that's cool. Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember what my classroom looked like. And I remember sometimes my mom would stay for a little bit.
Here in the U.S.?
In my classroom with us.
Okay.
But I don't remember feeling bad. I just remember what the classroom looked like. And that's it,
So yeah, you were younger, right? So that kind of makes sense. You didn't have that.
I'm sure I had feelings.
Yeah, I can't remember
what they were.
No, that's cool. Do you remember anything about kindergarten in Mexico?
No. But people tell me, and I feel most of my memories are based off what people tell me, and then maybe my brain trying to piece it together, because some of the people that I went to kindergarten with in Mexico remember that I always cried. Okay. That I would cry every single day and had a tantrum, and I guess that marked them and they remember, but I don't remember that. So maybe I blocked off my feelings.
Maybe when you came over here?
Maybe. I never thought about that. Maybe I didn't have feelings, but I blocked all of them out, and I don't.
Because everybody would be like, "Why are you crying?"
Or maybe because I was crying, and maybe I did hate kindergarten, but I don't remember. I should work on that.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. So you said you came to the U.S. around 6 or 7.
I was 6.
Okay, so
2001.
2001. Oh, me too. Hey.
You born during 9/11?
Actually, before that. And then I remember that during 9/11, I was in school and I was in second grade because they held me back a year. Did they have to hold you back a year?
I didn't get held back.
Well, no, because you hadn't even started, like...
But my mom said we arrived like 2 months before 9/11 happened. I don't remember 9/11, but so that means I was definitely in 2001. How old was I? I was born in 96 in September. So 2001.
So I was 7. I was 9.
I was 5.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you
5 turning 6.
You wouldn't remember that, right? I just remember everybody freaked out when we got sent home in second grade. We got sent home and...
Were you like,
I
this
didn't
is
know.
America?
Huh?
Were you like, this is America?
Well, I don't really remember how I felt. I
Right.
mean, because I didn't know English that well at that time because I had just got here. And I just remember everybody like freaking out and crying. And my mom wasn't home. Like, she didn't come home from
Right.
work.
We had our own issues.
She were like
Right.
But yeah, I kind of remember like that was a big chaotic thing, and you know, all respects to the people
Right.
that you know had families affected and everything. But
Yeah.
at that time, I was too small to process something like that. So now, like when we go to high school, like and we learn about the thing, you know, like I remember being in history class in 10th grade when we were learning about it, and like they were talking about it and stuff, and I was like, what the heck?
Right, I don't remember either, but, and I'm asking you because I've asked my mom, like, she was an adult, so I was like, how did you feel? We arrived 2 months later, 9/11 happened, like, were you scared? And my mom was like, she's like, no, we didn't really watch the news, I wasn't really...
Because you wouldn't understand what they were saying.
Right, that's what I'm saying, she didn't understand, but maybe also, she was probably dealing with moving, and probably there was a lot going on with her to even process.
Right, to leave your home
9/11
country.
on top of that, yeah.
Huh, that's a cool topic to bring up if somebody else wants. So you don't really remember about the process about coming here, is what you're saying. Okay. Too little, that's totally fine. See, some of us came from when we were so small.
You don't remember either?
No, right? I remember. My mom actually brought me over with some friends of hers. I didn't even know how to use a seatbelt because in Mexico we never owned a car. We always walked everywhere, used the camion and the micros. So I remember my grandmother didn't drive, and then because there was kids with us as well.
Yeah.
And the kids made fun of me because I didn't know how to put a seatbelt on.
See, I wish I remember details like that, but I don't.
Yeah. So, and then I knocked out, and then, like I shared before, it's like I woke up in a room full of strangers, and that was like a big shock for me. So if you don't remember and you didn't struggle, I guess, learning English, then probably coming here wasn't a big culture shock for you.
No.
You just kind of adapted and were too little to just even have emotions behind it.
Yeah.
So, okay, now let's fast forward because I know your family traveled and travels still back and forth. So once you guys got into the groove, you know, we got into like the high school years and you guys would leave. What would you think about that?
Yeah.
Do I remember that?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. FYI, I've known her whole family for like 14 years. And I've been around a long time. They're so beautiful.
What did I think about that? I thought it was normal to me. And we even like enrolled in school over there.
Yeah.
So I went up until 9th grade. So I had friends over there, like in school, that I would see every year and be over there with them for like 5 months and then come back and like hang out with you guys. So
how was that? Like, was it a big like? What are the differences? I guess
in school, I hated school over there.
In Mexico.
Yeah, they were so strict. Like we had to wear a uniform, and like if you were late, like even 5 minutes late to
they
class,
put you in a different classroom, right?
they wouldn't even let you come into the
Oh,
classroom.
that's right.
They'd
They
be
let
like,
you.
you'd have to ask permission. Yeah, you had to be like, Professor, like, can I come in? They're like, no. And you had to go home. And like,
yeah, I remember that. They used to lock the doors with chains.
exactly. And you can't come in. And I remember there was girls who dyed their hair like red, and they had to dye them back before they were allowed back in school. They were very like...
They are very strict. So
strict.
In Mexico, I remember wearing uniforms because I also went to school there. And there were like these big calcetas, you guys, and then they're like the school colors, and then you had sweatpants you had to buy, and books were not free. Okay?
No, you had to buy them.
You had to buy all of your supplies. You had to buy everything, the clothes. And if you did not show up with that, you were not allowed to learn. Which I never understood, right? So when you come to the U.S., free lunch, I was like, what? You know, because in Mexico, you had to either bring your own lunch or pay.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a little cart thing, the carrito con el señor with snacks, that my brother and I would go and visit sometimes because we would use our pesos that for the micro for snacks instead of. So we would walk home from school. But free lunch, it was amazing for me, more because I came from a more humble family. You know, it was my grandmother raising 2 kids that weren't really her responsibility, but she had the heart to do that, right? So I remember, I mean, and for us it was fun, right? Because we're like, oh, we're walking home and we got some snacks, you know, but like after you think about it, we were like 6 or 7 walking the streets of Mexico, like.
Yeah.
In the city, right? Because Matamoros is kind of more of like the city.
Matamoros?
Mm-hmm. And it's not like a rancho, you know? So,
no, we were in a rancho, so
yeah, so
it was okay.
It was different, right? So we were actually in the city, like with the big plazas and everything. But yeah, school was totally different, right? So you said they were super strict. But what about the material? Was the material kind of?
It was the same.
Okay.
I don't remember too much about the material. There was a lot of, I just remember there's a lot of literature.
Yeah. A lot of big books.
Yeah, and English. So for me, that class was like.
I already know this.
Yes.
You're saying it wrong.
Right.
And then you come over here and you go to your Spanish class.
Exactly.
That's not how you say it.
Yeah.
The fun stuff.
It was the same thing over there, but I remember I had like the same group of friends, and I still have them on Facebook, and like it's like nice to see them now.
Oh wow! So you still keep in touch with them?
Not so much in touch. I like their pictures. They like mine.
Like
I talk to them every once in a while. If I see them in Mexico, sometimes I do see them like when I'm over there, and I'll like say hi. But yeah.
It's like, you remember we went to school together?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of
But
like
of
over
course,
here
it's
too,
like,
right? Like I think you guys were the only ones that I stayed in touch with after high school, which I find that very cool because I'm not really a people person, but that's great. Okay,
yeah.
So we talked about that. So you went back and forth, and that was normal. And your parents kind of put that into motion, right? Because they were the ones that decided to do both at the same time. So do you feel like you've been Americanized in any way? I mean, I feel like your family, going back and forth, how does that make you feel? Do you feel like you're Americanized in any ways? Is there any differences?
I think I am, but I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? I think...
So like how can you
like in all
that?
of my family... Like of all my sisters, I think I'm probably the one right now that's the most Americanized. I used to think my little sisters because they grew up here, but now they're the ones who are going to Mexico with my parents, and like they're the ones who are like still living at home, so they're kind of more right now in touch with that like traditional Mexican family household.
Uh-huh.
And now that I'm like grown up, and it's different. I think like my interests are maybe a little bit more American. My lifestyle is definitely American, and I think that's why I'm okay with it, because I like my lifestyle.
So what's the difference between the lifestyle? So if you were still doing both, right? What's the difference, I guess? How would you explain that?
For example, like we were talking earlier over dinner.
Yeah.
When I moved in with Jesus and I told my parents I'm not having the big Catholic wedding. When I used to go to Mexico all the time, like I remember I used to tell like my aunts in Mexico, like, oh, when I get married, I'm gonna have my wedding here at the rancho, and you're gonna be here, and like I'm gonna marry some guy from the rancho, and like I kind of used to think like that. Maybe it's just because we were young and we all, had these like weird fantasies.
The rancheros were so beautiful in the novelas. That's what it was.
I guess. But now I'm like, I feel like I'm breaking away from that, but it feels so good, like I'm not like, because at first when I made the decision to like even move out and like move out of state and be on my own, and then I started making my own decisions, it felt like liberating, you know?
Okay.
I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. I don't think I'm doing a very good job of it.
Of what, explaining?
Yeah, like what I mean by
Well,
I'm okay with being more Americanized.
yeah, so like let's backtrack, right? So you said moving out of state and living on your own. Hispanic households were very known to stick in one household until you truly have to move.
Until you get married.
Until you get married.
And I think that's what it was when I started going to college, and I was like, okay, I'm a career woman, you know, like, and my number one priority is going to be my career in my life.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, okay, so that means that I can't follow that like traditional life like trajectory that other Mexican girls that I grew up with were kind of like set on, where they would stay living at home, and then move out of their parents' house into their husband's house.
Yeah,
you know, so already immediately with just like becoming independent, I was already breaking away from that.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's still a normal thing. I think.
Well, yeah, it's normal in America, but not in like.
No, I mean for Hispanic households to like have their daughters. Let's clarify that, right? Because I feel like men can go out and do other things, and us women, Hispanic women, get really either we get talked to, or we have conversations about like, hey, is this the right move? Are you sure? Like, you have your whole life ahead of you. You should stay here, be comfortable, and not take risks. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember my sister stayed at my mom's house till she was 26, 27. And then she found her husband and they moved on and, you know, whatever. I left when I was 18.
Right.
Was out. But that really hurt my mom. I remember she cried when I left.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's difficult, you know, because we grew up together. Like, that's something amazing about Hispanic families. I feel like we're like glue. Wherever one goes, we all go.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody needs something, we'll be there. Even if we're not talking for 3 years. Oh, shoot, you're in trouble? I'm going to go help you. Like, it's just who we are as a culture. So I can see why you...
So, yes, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I feel very, like, free. Like, I don't feel like...
You don't have to carry your family with you.
Yes. But that's, like, lifestyle. But also my interests, like what I like to do on my free time, like the kind of media that I consume is mostly American.
Okay.
And I'm glad that I allowed myself to do that. Like, when I started listening to Taylor Swift, this is a big deal for me, okay? Because, listen, I was like, whoa, I like her, you know? And I think at first I had this, like, Taylor Swift, I realized it was just internalized misogyny where I was not allowing myself to even, like, listen to Taylor Swift.
Okay.
And then when I realized it, I was like, wait, I'm going to listen to her and see what's up. And then I started listening to her and I'm like, she's great.
Yeah.
And so it's not
Swiftie,
just, now I love her, but like it's not just that, it's also like the movies and the music that I listen to. But I will say I listen mostly to Latin music, but just all of the media that I consume, because that's one of my pet peeves when I speak to or hang out with other Latinos or Mexican people, and they are just so close-minded and they're like, no, we're only gonna play Mexican music, or like I only want to watch Mexican media. And like, I just don't like that people are closing themselves to.
You know, I don't think I've ever had that come up in a conversation of like, oh no, only Mexican. I guess I've grown up in the U.S. for most of my life too. So, you know, in high school, we all both had different kinds of friends or whatever. But at the end of the day, I feel like I too was like very like Americanized, and I'm like, oh, we can't go back to Mexico. Like, that was a thing that was put into my head of like, you can't go back.
That's interesting.
You can't go back. And so, like, I'm like, well, I can't go back. Why would I want to learn? And, you know, but I love my culture. Like, I love learning about it.
Yeah.
I like, one of my biggest prayers is that I'm able to go back and take my son with me, and we're able to show him his roots.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm one of those, there was this thing that I heard that people were putting labels on us of like, oh, the Nosabo kids, like that's real. And I don't think
I don't like that people are calling people
yeah,
Nosabo kids.
so I don't think they realize how bad that comes to
Yes.
us, right? Because to me, if I heard that, I'm like, well, I kind of, you would label me that
Right.
because
Like we already have identity issues. Yes.
if you talk to me about our jaripeos and our dances, I can't dance Mexican music. I can't. I don't know how. You know,
Yeah.
you guys have spent hours trying to teach me how to dance cumbias and all that stuff, but I cannot physically dance it. I understand Spanish and I can speak it very well, but I communicate better in English.
I will say I mostly speak English too. Even with my friends that speak Spanish and my sisters, I'd rather speak English. And I don't know why that is. I have to work on that too and figure out what that is. But I don't reject my Mexican heritage.
Yeah.
Like I go to the jaripeos, I go to the bailes, and I still have all that in me. It's like 50-50. Yeah, the food. Like I embrace both American and Mexican cultures equally.
Yeah, the same. Me too.
Yeah.
I always go to my mom's house, and you're gonna always see me raving about her tortillas for sure. So, do you think that living in the U.S., now that we've talked about what's changed about your lifestyle and your views and your, the things you like and the things that you don't like, what about your parents' point of view? Has there been crashes or, different points of views on different things? Do you think that them coming over here actually opened up their mind a lot more or no?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think that them coming here opened up their mind at all.
Okay.
And I read this quote, or maybe I heard a quote when I was like, somebody said this, I think at like a graduation. It went something along the lines of, like our parents brought us here to, it went something like, basically the quote was saying that our parents brought us here and they didn't, it's almost like they exposed us to all of this here in America, but they didn't want us to kind of
take it in,
like that lifestyle that I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to bring us here so we could have a better future, better jobs, but they still wanted us to live like we were living in Mexico.
Gotcha. So
yeah, I wish I remembered like the quote exactly, but it was something along those lines. And I used to think about that a lot, like why, and I think maybe I even brought it up to my parents, like, you guys brought us here and now we're here, I'm embracing it, like, why
is it a problem?
Why is it a problem? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you brought me here. Exactly.
You brought me miles away from my hometown, like, where I was born at. Okay. So, can you give me examples of how you've come to that conclusion? That they haven't changed their mindsets?
Well, I think they have changed it slowly.
Okay.
I mean, I think they're okay with like all the choices that I've made now, but at first they weren't okay with it, right? But yeah.
So they wanted you to like just follow the mantra of staying home and
Yes. Things like my mom once told me that it was her dream to have me and all my sisters living like under her house in the same household, unmarried. Like she just wanted to have us all there, like together, like a big happy family.
But she did.
I guess so. She did, but we didn't all live there at the same time. So I mean, but we would be there. Like I would go there and visit.
Oh, you mean like out of school, like when you guys are like now? She wanted you now, like around this age. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she didn't feel like she had to care for you, but you guys were.
She just wanted to have us there with her. You know, like they just want us to have us there all the time at home. I'm trying to think of like examples. But like they haven't changed the way they are.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like they live their life still pretty much the same way they would over there.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So
what are some examples like that people are like?
So like I guess from my mom, she really embraced the English. So she talks English to us now. She understands it. She'll talk English to my son. So that's like an example of a change, you know. She's also very open to opportunities. So, you know, my career choice. She's very supportive about me being an entrepreneur and an investor and just living outside the norm of like, no, you have to work super hard for everything, work 10, 12 hours, and you have to make sure that you have every education behind your book, because I feel like every immigrant child has that mindset of like, oh, my parents brought me here to be better, so I better crack down on the books and make sure that I have I don't slip and I don't do this stuff. I made a lot of mistakes in my life, and my mom, I know, was always there to help me and navigate me through those troubles. Things like that. Another example would be, I feel like she has come accustomed to the fast-paced life here, because in Mexico I feel like everything's a lot smoother. I get a sense of calmness, you hang out and you go out and you can be out or whatever, and your parents are not going to worry about you because you're going to be with X, Y, and Z cousin. Right. There's going to be a bunch of people together. Here, I remember when I first came here, because in Mexico we were all over the place, right? My grandma would be like, yep, just be back by this time, and then, and there was no cell phones, there was nothing like that. But when we came here to Texas, my mom was like, hey, nope, this is a different thing. I don't want you guys out longer than this, and this is like we used to just hang out with our neighbors that were behind our house, nobody else. And she was like, you're not allowed to see anybody else, like the US is dangerous, like those things.
So I guess going off that, my parents did not embrace English the way your mom did.
Okay.
So my dad, he knows it, he speaks it, he speaks it at work, but at home he'll never speak English with us. Even sometimes when we're out in public, if we're at a restaurant and I'm ordering for the whole table.
So you do that? You're the orderer?
Yeah, he still doesn't want to speak English even in that environment. And my mom, she tried to learn, and I think she knows, she understands it, but she gets nervous, I think, when she speaks it, and she can talk to cashiers or things like that, but they didn't embrace the language that way.
Gotcha.
And even the work that they do, my dad was like, no, I've always worked outside, which is fine, and he wants to work outside, and that's fine, but it's still pretty similar to what he kind of did. And my mom too, she is doing kind of similar things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. My mom's still working 10, 12 hours.
So does my mom.
And I'm like, Mom, why you work so much? But
I guess that has changed. You're right. My mom also works. My mom and my dad both work.
Okay. So that's a new thing for her.
Not so new. I mean, she has been working for a few years now. If she was in Mexico, she wouldn't be working, right?
Okay.
But those the gender roles at home haven't changed. So my mom is she's also working. She's also coming home and making dinner.
Gotcha.
So it's stuff like that.
So was your dad okay with her going to work? Did he have any troubles with that?
No.
Cool.
I don't think so.
Some Hispanic men do, right?
Right.
So that's cool.
So they have changed a little bit, but not too much.
Okay. Now this is going to be a loaded question, and I hope it's not, but you here living in the U.S. and it sounds like most of your lifestyle is Americanized. Do you have a different perspective on how you're going to raise your children?
From the way I was raised?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I would raise my children different in many ways. Yeah.
Okay.
So starting easy.
Okay.
The language.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to teach my kids Spanish, and right now my partner, he speaks Spanish too, but together we speak English. Okay. So I think that would be the primary language in our household.
English?
But I would still make an effort to teach them Spanish. Does yours speak mostly English or Spanish?
No, so it's reversed in my household. We actually just speak Spanish the whole time. Avi only speaks Spanish. She understands a little bit of English because I talk to him sometimes in English because it's just easier for me. But no, he speaks mostly Spanish, and we figured that he would learn English in school.
Right. And that's the way most Hispanic families function.
Yep.
But, see, my parents, I know, they frown upon other families that speak English at home instead of Spanish.
Gotcha.
So like I'm gonna be one of those probably, but it's okay, you know. I already know it. I'm like preparing myself for that, for that criticism. But
wait, criticism. Back up because it's a whole nother topic. So finish your thought. We're gonna come back to that.
Okay. We're gonna come back to that one. All
to
right.
the criticism, yeah.
But so that's like one of the things I think, like we were speaking earlier over dinner, is like being more encouraging my children to speak up and talk about their feelings.
Yes.
Because that wasn't something that was encouraged when I was growing up.
Me either.
Like, don't talk back. You know, if you talk back, you like get this look like,
yeah.
you know. And I think that did like make me like not want to speak. When I was young, you know, I was like shy.
Okay.
And now that I'm older too, if I'm like frustrated, I'm trying to express my feelings, I don't know how, you know, and I kind of just like, I like shut down and
whatever.
yeah, like I just rather not say anything. So there's like little stuff like that still follow me. So yeah, just being open, having a lot more communication about everything, dating.
I feel like I grew up like that too, right? So we're not here to talk about me, but how I grew up with my grandmother. And then I grew up with my dad. I would stay with him a few months when my grandma would come here to the U.S. Then I got shipped over here, and then I lived with my mom that I hadn't really. So I literally like feel like I grew up just with things happening to me and me not knowing how to react to that because nobody ever talked to me about. I mean, you guys know, right? I'm like, hey, can you help me with my hair? Because I never learned any of that stuff. My makeup, all that things like the normal things that you would think about would be learned or taught growing up. I never had that. I never had the conversations of like, hey, you should really wait till you're, you know, with the right person or anything like that. So I rushed into all these relationships, and that really, you know, messed up a lot of my stuff, you know.
So you had more freedom when you were dating?
Yeah. So I had a lot more freedom. I would tell my mom, I mean, you saw me in high school. I'd be with one group of friends, another group of friends. I'd be having sleep. That's why I was at your house all the time. Like, my mom's like, where are you going? Oh, I'm going to Clarita's house. Oh, yeah, cool.
See, but we were the complete opposite. Like, we were never allowed to sleep over at anybody's
At my house. I remember I asked one time about Clarita, and your mom was like, no, she can come here. And then I packed up all my stuff, and we went over there. But yeah.
Yeah, like not even like, yeah. It was very strict, and with dating, like I said, like there was no talk about relationships. It was just kind of like, don't date and don't be out with boys alone because you're gonna get pregnant, you know.
That reminds me of Mean Girls.
Yeah, exactly, that's exactly how it was.
Don't have sex because you get pregnant and die.
That's pretty much what the conversation was, and so like, yeah, no, I plan on being like more open about communication.
That's really good. I feel like that's very important, you know, and I myself too am making it a priority to make sure that my son is very in tune with his emotions, and he understands that being a boy doesn't mean that you gotta bottle up all these things and not talk about them, because then you get, you know, all the extra stuff when they're all grown up and don't know how to handle a healthy conversation that's not, you know, the same, or and we can't agree, right? So that's very true. And also, you know, I feel like I grew up feeling like I didn't have somebody to talk to. I don't know, I mean, you had your sister Clarita, right? So you guys would probably vent to each other, but me being the last one of 5, I never really got to be like, oh yeah, like I'm feeling this way, do you know why? Or like, I never had that bond with my siblings either, to have like somebody to like confide in and be like, why do I feel like this? Or what the heck does this mean? And like, oh, this boy said this, what does that mean? Like, I didn't have that. Like, so to some extent, I had a lot of siblings, but I felt like an only child because I was constantly just, oh, I'm going here, cool. I'm going over here, cool. I'm a soccer manager. I don't know what that means, but cool, I'm just going to go to these games. Like, it was just constant. I was always on the go.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. But I will say there's some stuff that I will, you know, like, I think I spend a lot of time with my family because we weren't allowed to go anywhere. But I hope then my kids will like want to, you know, be at home and we're gonna like spend a lot of time together. I still want to keep that like close family.
That's what I'm cultivating as well, because growing up without that, and I think I told this to your sister, I'm like, you guys were the very first Hispanic household that I came into, and that there was a mom and a dad, because I grew up without my parents. They were married and everything, and then like you guys, you know, would have, it was so cool. They had family dinner,
We
and I was
dinner together.
it was so cool. Low key, I'd be like, because I never grew up like that.
Yeah.
So just seeing that positive family, like, you know, posture of everything, it was like a big thing for me. I think that's why I also like to hang out with you guys so much, because I got to see the other side.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. But like me and all my sisters are super close. And even with my younger sisters, like you were saying, like you wanted to have somebody to vent to, like I kind of like practice parenting with my sisters. Like, you know, like I talk to them about like relationships, and like I wish, like I told them things that like I wish people would have told me, like if I had an older sister, like, and I of course I had Clarita, but I mean like older, you know, because Clarita and I are kind of like
the same.
We're pretty much like the same age, so yeah.
Cool. No, keep being that great role model. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. I know they always wanted to hang out with us because we were the cool kids when I was over there, right? So your sister
it's reversed.
Come hang out with me. Come hang out with me. You're my only friend. No, I'm joking, but not really. That's why we say that Hispanic families are very very close.
So I do hope that like my kids will be close, you know, like the way I am with my sisters. And
yeah, that's also a beautiful thing, you know. I didn't have that intimacy with my siblings, but if they ever need something, they know they can call me, and I'm gonna be there, and I'm gonna show up, you know. And I try to cultivate that now. They kind of look at me weird because I'm always trying to hug them and be like, "Hey, I love you. Take care. How are you?" I'm like texting them and trying to show my emotions to them, and they kind of like.
See, even like that, like he was saying like "love you." Like one time I said it, I think maybe I don't know if I think I texted it to my dad and he didn't say anything back. But I'm not mad at him because I know, you know, I didn't expect him to. And I think I mentioned that to my little sister one time. She's like, "Yeah, one time I told him to and he didn't say it back." And I was like,
just smile.
Yeah, but like that's just how he is. So like little things like that, you know, I'm like, just say, you know, love you.
Yeah, that's the big deal.
But it's hard.
It would mean a lot to me.
Exactly.
Acceptance of parents. That's another whole topic too. But yeah, how hard is it for, you know, the older generation to actually let their feelings be known? Like, I don't know if they're trying to like, if they were raised that way or if.
I think so. And to a certain extent, because sometimes I get frustrated when I think about that. I'm like, because I was raised, I mean, they raised me pretty much almost the same way that they were raised, but I'm like completely different. But that's because I'm here, right? Exposed to all these like different ideas and different ways of communicating. And they were exposed to that, but they are now, you know? So it's, sometimes I think about that. I'm like, why didn't they, I don't know, like have those same realizations that I'm having? Or maybe they did, but there's just not comfortable.
Maybe. My mom, she actually, so that was one of the biggest breakthroughs with our relationship. Because I really had a tough time growing up showing my emotions towards her, you know, because there was abandonment issues there. Praise the Lord for therapy. And things like that, right? Because that's hard for you to find out, hey, your mom just kind of dropped you off with your grandparents. I'll come get you back later. Was a big thing for me. I'm like, did you not want me? Like, and then, you know, the whole self-worth issues and whatever. So I started to actually, now that I'm older, I realized that my mom's also getting older. So I said, you know what? I don't care. I don't care about all that stuff. I'm going to show her love every day. I'm going to text her. I'm going to call her. I'm going to just be very vulnerable with her. And now she says it back. She's like, I love you too. She sends me emojis and she calls me all the time. And she's like with AB. Like, it's just a beautiful, like, round circle back to square one of like, yes, cool.
That's really nice.
We have the breakthrough, you know, and like every time I go visit her, she hugs me and it's just been very like a big relief for my heart. So my inner child's like, oh yes, finally, my mom.
That's really nice.
My mama bear.
Yeah, I feel like I'm still like trying to get there, but then sometimes I'm still working with that because I'm the one who is also kind of like, you know, like backing up. So it's a kind of like a back and forth.
So you're not like that with your mom?
How?
Like how I am, like very open.
Not so much.
Okay.
Not so much.
I would have thought, I mean, because I always walk in and hug her, right? I'm like, hey, how are you? Because I thought that was normal, but I guess I never realized that you guys weren't.
We're not big
like
huggers.
that. Yeah.
I hug my mom when I leave.
I hug you guys all the time.
Yeah, I'm a big hugger. I hug everybody. But there's something there about like being like hugging in my family. Even my little sisters, they don't like to hug. And I'm like, hug me.
I'd be walking up to them and be like, hey, how are you? And they're probably just being respectful. And I'm like, cool, they're hugging me back. This is awesome. But I guess I never put that two and two together.
But like you said, it's kind of like I know how they were raised. And I know that they weren't encouraged to like
show emotion.
Yeah. And I'm barely now, like, I'm like, just recently, I'm like trying to show more.
Okay.
So we'll get there.
No, it's a great,
yeah.
It's awesome, and it's awesome to see it, you know, when your parents start to feel more comfortable opening up and like telling you stuff and like actually talking as people and not like I'm your parent and you're here. So that's how I feel like I'm with my mom. We're kind of like friends now. And so it's beautiful. It's because I can call her and be like, Mom, I'm having a rough day, and like cry it out with her. And she'd be like, no, you gotta be okay. I remember that when my dad passed, that was the one thing I did. It was like, it was the same day. I brought a friend with me because I just needed to be with someone. You know, we went to my mom's house. She had food for us. You know how she works. And I'm like, hey, can we go to the room real quick? And I like literally just bawled out. And she was there. And she was like, I'm so sorry. Like, you know, she didn't like my dad at all. Like, there was complete polar opposites. But she was there and she was like, it's okay to cry it out. Like, you know, he's still your dad. Like, she wasn't like bashing him ever or whatever. So
yeah,
it was super cool to have that support. Finally, when I'm a grown up, right? Because I didn't have that growing up as a teenager.
Right. That's nice that you and your mom are close.
So
because like if I'm having a bad day, I wouldn't call my mom. But I also feel like if something like terrible were to happen, and I don't know, I feel like if I called my mom and started to like, vent, I think she's very emotional too. Like she's always like crying. Like everything, even stuff that she shouldn't be crying about, you know what I mean? So I feel like she would just feel it so much more, and sometimes like I don't want her to like be worried about me on top of that.
Yeah, that's also true.
That's what happened, like, because I told you that I started going to therapy, and then I was like, one of the things that in therapy that I talked with my therapist is telling my parents like, oh, I'm going to therapy because of this, and then I told them, and then my dad didn't say anything. He was like listening. And then my mom, she was like, okay. And then every now and then she still asks me like, oh, like, how are you? Like, are you okay? And I know she's asking me, you know, like, I know.
Something wrong with you?
Yeah, she's like, are you depressed? Like, what? And like, when she asked me, like, I'm like, oh, you know, like, I kind of get annoyed, you know, like, I don't know why. You know, I think it's just kind of like because me pulling my guard up again, like I told you because I wanted to have that dialogue, but maybe now I'm like, maybe we shouldn't have. I don't know, you know, because I'm still working on it, like I told you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think therapy and Hispanics still mix.
No, they don't.
From our experiences, okay, you guys, this is our own lives, our own experiences. So if your household is different, we totally respect that. That's awesome because we both have gone to therapy and we feel like it's a very big.
That's great.
It's a great thing to do because you get different perspectives and you get to see things from different points of views, and they actually give you to-dos to make sure that you're doing better and you're not stuck at a certain place. So please don't take that as a bad thing.
No, I love therapy. But like maybe when I told my mom that I was going to therapy, and I thought it was going to be like a positive, and it wasn't bad, but I think they were just like digesting it. Like they were like, oh, she's going to therapy, like why? And then now my mom asks me like, oh, like, how are you? Are you better? Are you feeling, you know, anxious? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm good now, you know, but kind of with like a little bit of like, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for them to grasp the fullness, the full picture of therapy, because you hear therapy and you're like, oh, well, you must have some emotions that you know, oh, must be depression, must be anxiety. No, guys, I've been going through therapy for a while now, and I would just go in there and just talk about my day.
Yeah.
And it'll be the greatest thing ever because you're actually talking and expressing how you're feeling as you're going through the emotions and things, right? So therapy, I feel like has, and even in America, like I feel like a lot of people like look at you like, you're going to therapy? Because I've had that reaction of like, you're going to therapy for what?
Really?
Yeah. So
from like older people?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is, because I feel like now we're really embracing therapy.
Yeah. Mental health,
and I love
emotional
that.
health. Yeah. Millennials are out here changing the world, being managers and being sure that people are taken care of.
Yeah.
You know, so yes, very true. Wow. Emotions, you guys. Make sure you dig deep into those things, okay? So, do you believe that, oh, we actually just talked about this with feelings and stuff, but you have a boyfriend, right, that you live in. Is he
that you live
with? Sorry, that you live
I live
with.
Inside him.
That you live with.
Yeah.
So he was born here, or where was he born?
He was born here. Yes.
Okay, so he's more Americanized, less.
Yes.
Okay, so does he have like any like machismo things that you see or anything like that?
No. Not at all. And that's like what I loved about him.
Okay.
When I was getting to know him and like talking with him, I realized like this is like what I want. Because from the beginning, when I was looking for a relationship, I'm like, okay, I need to have an open-minded partner. Like someone who's 50-50, we're equal, you know, nobody's more important than the other one. Because growing up, it was like everywhere that I saw growing up, it was like women being in these marriages, and I kind of felt like they would tell me their life stories, and sometimes I feel like they used to have all these like dreams, you know, and hopes, and they didn't get to live them, you know, because they got married, they had kids, whatever reason, especially women here. So I wanted to make sure that, like, to me, that wasn't going to be a problem. Like, when I find somebody that I'm going to share a life with, they're going to be supporting me. And that's exactly what he does. I mean, he's followed me across the Midwest because he works from home. So he has the ability to, like...
just move.
Yeah. And so, like, wherever, like, my job takes me, he's like, of course, like, let's go there.
Perfect. That's so
you know,
good.
He's always, like, super supportive, and he wants me to be happy and have a good career.
So... that's a whole 360 from our culture, you think?
Well, because women aren't encouraged to work. So, and I, growing up, saw that, and I was like, oh, I hated that, you know?
Okay.
Because women were not financially independent. They were always dependent
on the man.
And then they were stuck in these marriages because if they were to get separated for whatever, if they were unhappy, they don't know how to work, where to work, how are they going to like be independent, you know?
Yeah, I had the opposite of that. So my mom was a very independent woman.
We were like opposites and everything.
She was a very independent woman.
Yeah.
She said, you don't need no man. You gotta go out here and get it yourself.
Yeah.
Literally, her words in Spanish, but you know, it was a totally different perspective for me. And I think that myself now, sometimes I don't know how to act around a parental like figure that's a dad. I get like, oh, how are you? Like, it's something that I'm working on. I don't know if you noticed with your dad, but I'm like, oh, buenas tardes, ¿cómo está? And I like back up and I'm like, all right, let's go. You know, because I didn't have that. I didn't have that big of a parental figure. Like, to me, having a dad would be kind of scary, I think. You know?
Yeah. My dad's kind of a scary guy from what I've heard, so.
Is he?
Yeah.
I thought he was super sweet.
he's nice, but he like comes off a little scary at first. You know, like
he loves music, so we're cool.
Oh yeah,
we're buds.
That's if you get him talking about music.
Yeah, so we have plenty to talk about. But like sometimes, you know, like when I was at dinner the last time I was there, we were outside and we were having a family dinner, and I was invited. You know, brought a whole cake and everything. He was there. He was cooking, you know. So her mom was like, "Hey, see right there. Like, you get all the food that you want." And he was cooking, and I was like, "Okay." So I like.
I didn't even notice. You were totally yourself.
You know. So I'm over here like at the end, and then he's like, "You want some chicken?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." But, like it's like I don't know how to act with dad figures, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's because I didn't grow up with one. I mean, my mom had boyfriends, but they were never serious. She was very particular on who she brought around us.
So did she ever bring around like where did you ever see machismo from anybody? Like when you were growing up, you never witnessed that?
No, my mama was like, whoosh. She was like the pants in the relationship. She was like, my way or no way, get out.
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
I think growing up, I just saw mostly like men, like the dads were like scary to me. You know, they were like, oh, the authority figure. And yeah. So I was like, I don't want none of that.
Yeah.
So when I was like looking for a man, I was like, I want someone who's like soft, you know, and expresses their feelings and is just
good at communicating. Yeah, so with my husband, we were working on it. Now he's a lot better, but I think he had a lot of that. I am the authority of the household. You are going to do what I say or not. Not to me, but like my son. And I'm like, dude, he's one. Like, chill out, bro.
Right.
I'm like, what are you doing? So we like, you know, grew together in that area. And so like, come to find out, you know, he's got his own things, and if you do want to watch his story, it's actually on the podcast as well. But he grew up pretty much alone in the streets and had to toughen up young at like 16, 17, and you know that's where that comes from. But
yeah,
I feel like it's a culture. He's from Puerto Rico. He's not Mexican, but I think Hispanic as a whole, I think men tend to want to be scary for whatever reasons, right?
Right. Yeah, you're right. No, yeah, Jesus isn't like that at all. But even though he's not, like going back to those gender roles, like now that we live together, he's not machista at all, but he grew up in a house full of boys. He only has brothers.
Gotcha.
And so I don't blame him sometimes for like being a little messy, you know? Like if he sees like a lot of dishes on the sink, like he won't wash them.
Oh.
And I'm like, why don't you wash the dishes? You know what I mean? And I talked to him about it, like, why can't you, I want you to do like some of the stuff like around our home. If you
see it, please do it.
Without me having to ask you. You know, that's the only thing, that's like something that we're working on but I'm also.
So his mom did everything pretty much.
I think so. But I'm sensitive to it because I know that boys aren't raised that way. You know, they're not raised to like, they weren't taught how to be like clean up as they go and like doing these things. So now
I locked out because my husband do. My suegro's living with us right now. My suegro's like, oh no, Sammy knows how to cook, he knows how to clean. We made sure that he knew all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So he does that without me even like, if I'm out on a trip like this, I'll come home and everything's done.
Right. So I think it's just how you were raised. So yeah. So like in Jesus' case, then yeah, his mom did most of the work around the house, but he's like learning.
Yeah, so he's
open to it. And that's what's like most important to me. I'm like, yeah, we got some area to improve, but as long as you're gonna do it and you're willing to, then it's all good.
Right.
Yeah.
So good, you know. So let's go back to the criticism because I really caught my ear.
Yeah.
So this comes from our own parents. They criticize what we do, what we don't do, what we wear, how we wear it, what we drive, what we don't drive. So were your parents like that, like a lot of you growing up? Like when you were in high school, do you think some of the choices that you made growing up were kind of in the back of your mind with those voices, or what?
Maybe, because growing up when I was like in school, like high school and
College?
not so much. I think in college is when I started experimenting and doing some things that they were like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
But high school, middle school, like everything before that, I was super focused on getting the best grades. And that was like...
These girls were in AP classes, okay? Both of them. Not just one, both.
Yeah, but like, I loved going home and like, look at all my A pluses, you know? And like, I just wanted them to be so proud of my academics. So I think that maybe that was a reaction to what you're saying. Like, I didn't want to be maybe criticized about anything at all. So I tried to be perfect in like school.
Did that get tiring after a while?
No.
You liked it?
I like school, so maybe that's why. I'm like, yeah, I enjoy school, but I was getting a lot of fulfillment because it made me feel good about myself, you know, like I felt like, oh, I'm so smart, you know, and then that led to some more problems, like once I was completely out of school, because now I'm like, how do I excel, you know, like how do I know I'm doing, like how do I know I'm doing good, like I can't take my report card and show it to my mom anymore, like what am I gonna do?
Show her your bank account.
Oh my gosh, exactly. But then in college I went through this phase where I was like wearing like baggy clothes, and I remember my mom, she basically asked me, she's like, do you like girls?
She did?
Yes.
What?
Because of the way I was dressing. I went through this phase in college where
Were you single at the time?
No, I was in a relationship, but I was going through this phase where I was kind of rejecting everything that was like feminine, because I thought like, oh, that's bad. But now I embrace all things feminine. Okay. But at the time, like it was part of my, you know, figuring out who I was.
So she straight up asked you. Wow.
Yeah, because they would criticize like how I would dress. That was like one of the things that they criticized. But yeah, I mean, even when I just bought a new car, they were like, why'd you spend that much money on a new car? And I'm like, it's rough out here. Like, have you tried to buy a car lately? Like, all the cars are expensive.
That's so true though. Like, finances.
Mm-hmm.
Finances.
That's one of the things. Yes, I think that's one of the things I feel most criticized by everybody, not just my parents. Like older people that I work with, they're like, why don't you buy a house instead of like paying this much rent? And I'm like,
I smell like those, bro. I don't know about me owning ever a house, but yeah.
Even like older millennials, people that I work with that are like in their 30s, 35, maybe late 30s.
I'm not there yet.
They don't understand, like, yeah, like, why are you paying that much for rent? And I'm like, I don't want to. Like, my apartment is not like luxurious, but like that's what it is. And also because I don't want to buy a house and be tied down here. You know, I want to get up and move if I want to, because you know, I don't know
where you're gonna end up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not there yet. So yeah. They do criticize that.
My mom be like, you going on another trip? She actually, you know, this was a big topic that we just got done with, was me leaving my son. Because I travel a lot, and this is why I'm able to do what I do, because, you know, I connect with people and I travel, but I travel for work. And when we went out to Oregon, we went on a girls trip to Oregon. She was like, how long were you there for? 8. I'm like, oh mom, I went for 8 days. It was so refreshing. It was so cool. It's so beautiful. I was showing her pictures. And she was like, 8 days? You left your son for 8 days?
Oh
how could you do that? And so I was like, Mom, my husband is very capable of taking care of her son. And she goes, no, la maltrató, maybe he hit him, whatever, because, like, you know, his disciplinary things are different than mine, you know, but we come to an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And our household is totally different from everybody else's household around in our family, you know. Bless you. Thanks. And that was a big shocker to me, because I'm like, she low-key like brought it up and was like, I don't like how you leave your son so much. And even my sweater one time, she was like, oh, I didn't leave my kids with anybody or leave them alone till they were like 10 or 11. And I was like, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, that hurts my heart more than you know, but
Yeah.
it's what it is now. I chose to be a working working mom. And
being a working mom looks hard.
yeah.
All the working moms I've worked with, they are always tired.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And that's another reason why I see all these working women and I'm like, I don't want to be there. You know, especially right now. So yeah, kudos.
Yes, girl. But my husband, he's my angel. He helps me so much with the baby, and I think that's something different as well, because I have other friends that are Hispanic, and the girl was like, "Wow, your husband cleans, cooks, does laundry, takes care of your son. Mine won't even change a diaper," and I'm like, "Wow."
It's shocking. It's still out there a lot though. But yeah. Well, at first, it's funny you brought up that because, yeah, at first my parents criticized me for moving in together and not getting married. But now that we're together, they're like, my mom, sometimes she asks me, like, if I go home for the weekend and Jesus doesn't come and I'm just there by myself, she's like, so are you and Jesus doing okay? And I'm like, yeah, why? She's like, well, why didn't he come? And I'm like, he had other plans. Because I do that a lot. I think more than half of the times when I go home, like, I'll just go by myself. And Jesus does come. But usually if he has something else, I'm like, I want to go home, so I'm going to go see my family.
Uh-huh.
And my mom doesn't understand that. She's like, a couple shouldn't be
That's what mom's
separate.
used to doing.
Like, a couple needs to be together all the time. And I'm like, no. At least not for us. Like, with me and him, we're like totally comfortable, like being away from each other, and that's fine. And we actually like that, like having a little bit of a distance and then coming back together.
Yeah, I remember they always ask me, where's Sammy?
Yes.
Where's Sammy?
Everybody, even my extended family.
Yeah.
Like my uncles who like barely talk to
¿Y
me.
tu esposo dónde está?
Exactly. Like, oh.
Guys, we're doing great. My marriage is fruitful. It's not perfect, and we got things to work on, but we're fine. I will not leave that man. He will not leave me.
Yeah.
Everything's good. All I say is, because he trains a lot of people, right? So I go to like birthdays or something like that, sometimes without him.
Mm-hmm.
But he tries to go. But same like you and Jesus, like we found it that it's okay for us to not be together everywhere. He doesn't feel like he doesn't have. So he told me, he's like, I don't want you to feel like you need to ask for permission for everything. Like, you have your own life. You were your own person before you came into this marriage. Right. And I refuse to let you lose that, which is amazing to me, right? So I allow him to be himself and do his thing, Men sometimes though gotta get a little pull in the ear when they're not, in the right direction, but we work through that, right? But that's such a weird thing too.
So it's weird to get criticized like on your relationship when it's like a very healthy relationship.
Yeah, they don't know that because they don't see you together, right?
Or they don't understand it. Yeah.
I think that's also a thing. All right, well, thank you so much. I have one more question for you. And that is, if you had one piece of advice you'd give someone who went kind of like in the same situations or in the lifestyle or, migrant, who might need some help with something, what would it be?
Help with something.
Like advice, like what would you give? Like let's say I told you, hey, this is a 4-year-old that's about to go through the same journey that you've gone through. What is one thing you would tell her?
Let's see.
We're all about critical thinking here.
Right. Well, there's like a lot of like little things, but like what's like a way to like
summarize it?
Yeah. I think that what's most important is just figuring out who you are, because it's more likely that you're going to be different than your sister, than your mom, and that's okay. Like accepting that you have your own way of how you want to live your life, but you have to figure that out, and you kind of figure it out as you go, So I think that's something that took me a while to realize is like I'm still figuring it out also. Like, what do I want 10 years from now? And you have to experience things to figure out what you want,
right?
You know? But the main thing is like not being afraid of doing something because you're going to be afraid that somebody is going to not agree with you,
right?
Or be mad at you for whatever reason
Criticize
because
you.
you're not following the traditional path that they followed. Because you have to do those things to figure out who you are,
right?
You know?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Because if you follow that like mold, then you're gonna end up 20 years from now and you're gonna be like, well, I don't think that this is
me.
Yeah, I'm not happy. And then I feel like I hear that a lot, like older women, they're like, I'm like, what? And what are my interests? I don't know what my interests are, right? Because all my interests are my kids, you know, and like my husband and being there with them. And then, so that's like, I never want to end up that way, you know, so I always want to like explore and experience new things.
That's so good. Me too. Yeah. And it's kind of scary how real that still is right now, you know. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing your insight and inputs on that podcast. And thank you guys for listening. Make sure you subscribe on the info below. And check out my Instagram. Check out the TikToks where I'll be giving you guys updates of new releases and new episodes as well. So again, thank you so much, Kingdom family, to you for being here, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.
Bye.